Warning: the Not Real Art podcast is intended for creative audiences only. The Not Real Art podcast celebrates creativity and creative culture worldwide. It contains material that is fresh, fun and inspiring and is not suitable for boring old art snobs. Now, let's get started and enjoy the show.
Greetings, artists and art lovers. This is Not Real Art, the podcast that celebrates creative culture. You got your boy Man One in the house.
And Sourdough kicking it live.
What up, Man One?
What's up? How are you?
Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, man. It's always good. It's always fun when we're in the...
Have you missed me? It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Of course, I said that last time, but...
Yeah. As my wife calls you my girlfriend. Is that your girlfriend on the phone?
No, he's my bitch.
Yeah. So
you know. Yeah, because you want to hang out with your girlfriend. Who wants to hang out with their wife? Love you, Laura.
Yeah. I didn't say that, by the way. That was Sourdough.
Yeah,
just for the record.
I love Laura. Are you kidding me? Laura's what they call a straight shooter. She does not suffer fools, and she fucking tells you how it is.
For almost 25 years now, as a matter of fact.
That's right. You have an anniversary coming. I got the invite in the mail, man. That's exciting. 25 fucking years, dude. How'd she put up with you?
I don't know. But last year she goes, next year's our 25th year anniversary. I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, I want a party. So that answers a lot.
Yeah. Well, look, God bless her, because, a lot of partners might have expected you to read their minds.
Oh, yeah. I think after 24 years, she's like, no.
He can't read my mind. He's fucked up too much.
No, I cannot read minds. She can read my mind. And it's scary. This just happened.
Okay.
So I'm doing a portrait for a couple.
Speaking of portraits, where's my portrait? You owe me a portrait.
Well, actually, I do owe you a portrait, but your wife is going to give me the photo of your portrait.
No, not the portrait of me, of Ellis.
Oh, yeah. No, that's still in the works.
Yeah. I'm just busting your balls.
I'm still, I was talking about your portrait. Okay.
Yeah, well, fuck me.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's down the road.
Anyways.
I don't trust you.
So what... It'll show up.
Okay,
when you least expect it, it'll show up.
No, I know how some of your clients have waited months and years for some of this shit. So I had to say,
like wine.
That's right. Well, by the way, I mean the portrait you did of Channing and of Eden were so dynamic and beautiful. Right. I'll post the images actually on the website so people know what the fuck we're talking about. And by the way, portraitsbyman1.com.
It's up and live.
Up and live. People should go and check it out because you are sought after for your portraiture work. Am I saying that right? Portraiture?
Yeah, I think so.
And you killed it. Speaking of anniversaries, for my wife on our anniversary. Right. And then you did my daughter. And while Channing's portrait is fucking amazing, you totally elevated, leveled up, as the song goes, on Eden's.
Yeah.
Really nailed that one.
Yeah, that one.
So now the pressure's on. I guess to keep leveling up.
Keep going up.
Yeah, but so anyway, guys, viewers, fans, check it out. portraitsbyman1.com. So anyway, I digress. You said something just happened with Laura.
So the point was that I'm doing a portrait for this new client. It's a couple, and they wanted their portrait together on one canvas. I initially suggested we do one of her, one of him, and we hang out on the wall next to each other.
Yeah.
They were like, no, we want it together. I'm like, fine, no problem. So I went to their house, very lovely couple, took some pictures of them. We finally decided on the right photo, blah, blah, blah. That night, I get home, my wife's in bed, Laura's in bed. It's already like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, whatever. And I hadn't seen her all day, right? So I go in the bedroom, like, hey, what's up, whatever, lay down, and then she's kind of half falling asleep and trying to listen to me. And so I'm like, yeah, so here's a picture of my new client, like whatever. She's like, yeah, I already saw it. And I'm like, no, you haven't seen it. She goes, you already showed it to me. And I said, no, I haven't shown it to you. I just took the photo today. She goes, yeah, I know, you sent it to me. I go, I did not send it to you. right? And I haven't even shown her the photo yet.
Yeah.
And she described it to me, right? She goes,
It's getting spooky.
She goes, yeah, it's the older Asian couple that you're doing. And, and I'm like, yeah, it is, but I haven't shown it to you. She goes, yeah, I've seen it already. And then I showed it to her and she's like, yeah, I saw that picture already.
Oh my God, this is spooky.
And I'm like, oh man, I'm screwed, And I'm like, so then she kind of like started waking up, because she was like half asleep, whatever. And I go, yeah, okay. And then she starts like waking up and going like, wait, I already saw that. I go, I know. She goes, no. I already saw that picture you just showed me. I literally have already seen it. And then she starts freaking out. And I go, I don't get freaked out anymore. Like, I already know you're a witch. I already know you know how to figure this all out.
Yeah, witch.
It's like you read my mind all the time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm going to do before I do it. You finish my sentences. You obviously now you're
right.
Take it to the next level where you're seeing the photographs before I take them.
So I have to ask this question because I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this, and forgive me if we have, because clearly I don't remember. But you and Laura, 25 years of marriage, right? But yet you were together how many years before you got?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's like 5 years.
So you're. I mean, am I wrong about this? But weren't you high school?
Yeah, we were high school sweethearts.
Sweethearts.
Yeah.
And then you had a bit of a respite for a while, and then kind of in college got back together.
So we met when she was a senior in high school.
Okay.
And I was a junior.
Okay. Ooh, older one.
Yeah. That's how I roll. And then, we were seeing each other or whatever. And then when I got to college, we were still dating and dating more seriously, And so we dated. So pretty much since I was a junior, end of my junior year, and then throughout college. So 4 or 5, like almost 6 years we dated. And then when I got to college, we got married a year later. So
okay, what do you think appealed to her most, your athleticism or your artistry?
That's a good question. I never thought of that. I think
because in high school, you were probably a little more of an athlete than an artist at that time.
Yeah, I mean,
you were an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, okay. I was just a graffiti artist at the time. I wasn't. I don't know. I think
in terms of time allotment, you were probably
I was
doing a lot more
athlete.
sports.
I would definitely consider myself an athlete at that time,
right?
And most of my time I spent, doing soccer, playing soccer, and being a graffiti artist at the time. I didn't do that in public or with the girlfriend or what. That's something I went to go do.
Shit, yeah,
I went to homies. We went to go bombing or painting or whatever we were doing, but it was something. The graffiti part was something I did with my friends.
Right.
That's not something I did with my girlfriend.
That was a guy's thing.
Yeah. But I remember one time early on, actually, I went up on this hill kind of near where I used to live, and there was like just this odd wall that was just on top of this hill, like a retaining wall maybe, but it was, like 200 feet above the street. Mm-hmm. And I remember I went up there one time and I did her name in like gold and red.
Right. Wow.
and drove by with her in the car one day, and she was like, and I said, look, and she didn't know what the hell it was. And then after she realized like it was her name, and then she was like, oh, wow. So it was like, trying to
like, I could have been arrested for that shit.
Yeah.
I almost got arrested for you.
So I don't know. I don't try to figure out what appealed to her about me. I have no idea. I still don't know to this day.
But here's the thing, right? Because, we love to tease our ladies, right, on the podcast here. One of these days we'll have them on. But clearly we love our ladies. They make us better men. They love us in spite of ourselves. They love us, I think, for our faults as well as our gifts. But at that time, right, like thinking about you guys meeting, 25 years on, I've known you 15 years or something. I've always known Laura to be incredibly supportive of your work, of your art. I think you even, if I remember right, there's a story about her dad asking you something about you're going to have to get a real job. And you said, no, I'm going to be a full-time artist. I'm going to support my family with my art, which you have done.
Yeah, well, actually, when we first got married, that was the first thing I told her. I said, I don't want to hear from your parents. I don't want to hear about when is he going to get a real job or why doesn't he get a real job, and they've never told me that. I'm sure they probably thought about it a lot, or they may have told Laura, but it never got to me. I right from the get-go, I was very clear about that. I'm like, I'm an artist. This is what I do for a living. And yeah, I told her one time, one day I'm going to support you and our family just with my art. Obviously, when I first started in 94, we got married. I was making very little money, if any, doing art, but I treated it as a full-time job. If I didn't have a client, I was painting. And if I wasn't painting on the street, I was painting in the studio. And I've always treated it like a full-time job, whether money was coming in or not. And years later, when I opened up the gallery, Crew West Gallery, and I was doing stuff, my wife finally left her job and became a full-time mom. And we were able to afford the fact that she could just stay home.
And you were a one-income family at that point. And it was your income.
Yeah, we were one income, 2 jobs, 1 income.
Yeah, right. Right.
I was running 2 jobs.
I mean, to be fair, being a full-time mom is way harder than being an artist.
Well, what I meant was I was doing Crew West and Man One art.
Oh, right.
So I was doing 2 jobs and 1 income. Yeah. And she was doing the harder part, which was just being a full-time mom.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember telling her, like, remember I told you a long time ago that one day I would be able to support us with just my art or whatever, and you didn't believe me and blah, 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 right? Whatever. And it was funny because she looked at me and she goes, well, why do you think I never left you? And she goes, of course I knew that was going to happen. That's why I stuck around. I believed in you. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a dumb fuck.
What do you think she loves most about your art? Because it'd be one thing, right? Well, answer that question first, and I have another question.
I think she likes that I'm creative. She likes when I'm being creative. I think not necessarily what I'm painting or what it is that I'm specifically working on, but I think it's that I'm being creative and I'm doing something that a lot of people can't do or don't understand. She loves art just in general. And she likes the fact that she's married to someone who can create it all the time. And so she definitely loves my portraits, right? That's of course she likes when I do that kind of stuff. But even when I do my personal work and maybe it's a little bit more twisted or whatever, she may not like the piece that I'm creating. She may not want it to hang in the house, but
you've got some dark shit.
Yeah, but she's very supportive of it, and she enjoys watching me create the work. So I don't know. That'd be a good question to ask her. I wonder what the real answer would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because, and then also like the other question was going to be like, what if she didn't like your art? You know what I mean? Or she didn't like art. She respected you being an artist and she was tolerant of it or whatever. Yeah. Could you be married to her?
No,
right.
I couldn't.
That's right. Even if she respected you being an artist and was tolerant of your profession, but didn't like art and didn't like your art, you couldn't hang.
I think the word specifically that is using the word tolerant. So supportive and tolerant are 2 completely different things. And so whether my wife loves my art or doesn't love my art is not as important as support. So as long as my wife supports what I do, I don't care if she loves it or doesn't. Because I do have friends whose wives are not supportive, Yeah. And it's a hard industry, whether you're a musician, whether you're an artist. So it's hard enough to try to make it in that world. And then to come home and argue about it. Yeah. And try to convince your partner that this is the right thing. Right. There's no way. I couldn't do that.
Could you be married to, no, sorry, Laura, no offense on this next question, but could you be married to another artist?
No, that's another thing. I probably could not. And it's funny because every time it happens a lot. I'll meet someone and they'll say, oh, are you married? I say, yeah. And then the first thing they say is, oh, is she an artist?
Interesting.
And it's weird because when I meet a doctor, I don't say, oh, is your wife a doctor? It's like, but why when I'm an artist, it's almost like, oh, you're one of those guys, so you must be married to one of those people too, because or something. It's just weird. It's a weird thing when people say that to me, because it happens all the time.
Well, and I also bring it up in part because, we live in the media capital of the world, entertainment capital of the world, Los Angeles. And so you often run into actors. And I've heard actors talk about how they can't be married to another actor, or they were married to an actor and they ended in divorce or what have you. And well, I know there are exceptions to the rule, of course, but
yeah, I wouldn't want to come home and compete.
Right. Or have to justify.
Yeah. Or even get critiqued.
Now let us critique your day.
By the way, that piece you did was not that great and blah, blah. But I always think that, we need to complement each other as a couple. Right. And I think we do that very well, emotionally, spiritually. My wife's an accountant, so she's into the numbers. She's very structured, very matter of fact, and that works well when I don't know shit.
Compared to you.
When I don't know shit about anything. So see, it complements. I don't know shit, and she knows everything. Perfect. No, but it's just like, I think it works better that way. If we were both doing the same thing, I think it would drive me nuts. And I always had this vision that we would work together in our own capacities.
Mm-hmm. Which you have done.
Which we have done. When I had the gallery, she was my bookkeeper and maintained the books and helped me with a lot of the business or whatever. And then the day that I closed the gallery, she said, "Thank you. I'm going back to work." I can't wait to go back to work. And she told me, which I'll never forget, and she reminds me all the time, she says, "You were the worst boss I ever had in my life."
But how do you really feel?
Yeah. And so every time, like just recently.
Did you ask her why? Like, why were you the worst boss?
Oh, people have asked her, and she has lists, exhaustive lists.
Bullet point, talking points.
Yeah. It's everything. And it's so funny because recently, like, she's having some problems at work, and she's talking about her boss, and like he's an a-hole, and he's this, and he's doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff is going on. And I go, "Oh, so am I still the worst boss ever?" And she looks at me and she goes, "Actually, you are." You're actually worse.
Still the worst. Hey, it's good to be number one.
I'm like, good, as long as I don't lose that ranking. Yeah, but I mean, I understand why she didn't like working.
It's hard working with family.
Yeah, it's really hard. And she could. One of her biggest gripes, which I get, was like she was always telling me like, you're so nice to everybody at the gallery, right? Like your assistants will come and they'll fuck up, but you won't yell at them, or you won't, like, you're so nice to them, But then when it comes to me, like, you treat me like shit. And I'm like, well, I'm not treating you like shit. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, if there's stuff wrong or we did stuff wrong, then I'm telling you the truth, And she,
I'm lying to my interns.
Yeah. And I'm like, look, if I tell them the truth, they're going to leave. I need my interns because, if I yell at them, they're gone. And she would say like, oh, so it's okay that, to treat me like shit and because I'm going to stay. And I'm like, I'm not treating you like shit. I felt like, I could be honest with you and I could tell you like what's really going on, And yeah, sometimes I didn't say it in the best way, but at the end of the day, I knew we would.
It reminds me of that joke of like that Freudian joke of kind of about Freudian slips. It's like, my girlfriend and I broke up. Why'd you break up? Well, we were having dinner and I meant to say, "Honey, would you please pass the salt?" Instead, I said, "You fucking bitch, you ruined my life." Sorry.
Something like that, right? Yeah. Anyway, so it's been
a journey.
It's a journey. And, of course, there's ups and downs. And
no, but you said something a minute ago. It was kind of interesting as you talked about being complimentary. I think there's a lot of people out there that, are on a mission to find somebody just like them.
I don't know why you do that.
And I think that's a fail. I think that's a loser. I mean, maybe it works. I hope it does. I wouldn't wish anyone divorce. I'm just saying, like, I know in my relationship, absolutely, we're very different and we complement each other. It's a 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing, right?
In our situation, specifically, it did equal 3. It actually did equal 3. So there you go. 1 + 1 = 3.
1 + 1
That's what
= 3.
happens.
That's it. That's it.
So you're on your way.
That's how it works.
You're on your way. You're almost there.
Yeah. God.
You're still at 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
You're almost at 3. I got very lucky. And the fact that I found, the woman of my life so early and didn't lose her. And
were you looking?
No.
Right.
No.
Well, no, because I'm just, it is very rare, right, for any 17-year-old or however old you were, to have that much situational awareness, self-awareness, spiritual awareness, whatever, to recognize that that's my life partner at 17. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was 17, I didn't know shit.
To be honest, like, when we first started dating, I didn't know right off the bat, like, oh, this is it. Okay. No, I'm not going to say that. But, we got along, we started dating, everything was good. There was no problems. We had fun together. We had similar upbringings. Her family is Mexican. My family Mexican. We both
Was that important for you to find a Latina?
Yeah, I think it was. We had, a lot of the same type of goals. We both wanted to have kids at some point. We wanted to raise them a certain way culturally. Yeah, it was important. I don't know.
But I mean, if you had fallen in love with a white girl or a black girl or a Japanese girl, would you have been inclined to marry them? Or were you sort of just culturally or personally, because of your culture, more attracted to Latino women?
No, I think, like I said, I just was so lucky that everything lined up. Yeah. Right? Culturally, it worked. The way she was and is her personality, everything just lined up. Yeah. And by the time I got out of college, I was very focused. Yeah. So I'm not going to say when I first met her when I was 17, I was already focused and I knew this was it. No, but dating her and going through college and all the growth that I did during college, and then all the growth she did during that time. Once I graduated, like I was super focused. I was like a year out, I was like, okay, I'm starting my business. I'm doing this. I'm going to be an artist full time. And it was kind of like, either you're with me or you're not. And I remember that's kind of how I brought it up to her. I was kind of like, look, I'm moving forward and I have this plan. Like, are you on for the ride or not? Because I think you're the right person, and if you are, then let's get married. We've been doing this so long already. We've been, in my mind, we're like been dating over 5 years. Like, it's kind of like shit or get off the pot.
Right. Well, let's not waste time.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm focused. I know what I want to do. And if you don't want to do it, let me know now, because then I can keep doing what I need to do and you can go do what you want to do. And she was like, no, absolutely. Let's do this. Like, I'm behind you. And so that was awesome. It was like, it was super simple. We didn't stress about it, argue about it, think about it. It was just like the natural progression of our relationship. And like I said, this is like a 1 in a million story. Like, that's the other thing I have to like always like tell myself and understand, because I see my kids now and, the oldest ones are going to be 21. And if they told me right now that they had a girl, I'll be like, dude, no, you're too young. You don't know what the fuck you're doing, whatever. But I look at myself and I was around their age and I already knew, okay, this is what I want to do. I always have to look back at it and say like, okay, there was a certain chemistry, and for whatever reason, I knew what I wanted. For whatever reason, she knew what she wanted, and we just happened to be on the same page, and it's been working out, So I don't think it usually works that way, but it did. And so I'm super, happy about it. But, and it's funny because my whole career and my whole life, I think just in general, my whole life has always been like that, where it comes time for the next level and it just shows up and I just go down that path. I've never really had a situation where like, oh, let me go home and pray about it. Let me go home and think about it. Let me go home and talk to people about it. It's always like, no, yeah, perfect. This is what I wanted to do. Yeah. Let me go do that. Right. And up to this point, every big decision, every life-changing decision, career move, what have you, has kind of been along that path, And it's a little bit of just surrendering to life and to what's going on, and a lot of trust. And that also is unique, I think, or not many people think that way. And it's hard when I see it in my kids that they're not that way, or that they're having struggles, with things like that, because then I'm like, dude, can't you see it? Like I can see it. Just do this. But it's their life, and I see a lot of people struggle with life in that way, whatever. And do I look back and say, hey, I should have done this, I should have done that? Maybe, but I don't have regrets. It's kind of like I had, choice A or B, and I chose A, or I chose B. So what? That's what I chose. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, I should have done the other one. I've never had those kind of regrets. Thank goodness. But, and again, I think it's just something that I've been fortunate enough to have clarity about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the hallmark of a healthy relationship and finding the right partner. This notion that your partner loves you for who you are and wants to support your dreams and your goals and doesn't try to change you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
There's a cynical joke I heard a long time ago that goes something like this. It's like a woman marries a man thinking that he'll change, but he stays the same. A man marries a woman thinking that she'll stay the same, but she changes.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
Pretty cynical as well, but, there's a kernel of truth in that, I guess, a little bit. I think, obviously everybody's on their own journey or whatever in terms of, when you find the right person, you find the right person. You don't know if that's when you're 25 or 35 or whatever, but the right person tends to be, at least in my assessment, the one that gives you the space to be who you are.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that I've always loved about Laura is that she has never tried to change me. She's never forced me to do things that I don't want to do. Again, I have so many friends who are artists, and I see how destructive it is when their partner doesn't support them or says, well, that's good, you're an artist, but why don't you get a full-time job and make some money? And my wife has always been supportive in whatever I do. And even if she knows I'm wrong, even if she knows like it's going to be a disaster, she's like, well, if that's what you want to do, just do it. She'll always give me her opinion if I ask or tells me to think about this.
Sometimes when you don't ask. Yeah.
But, in terms of being an artist, man, it's like for example, a simple example. I'm at the studio whenever I want, how many hours I want, always. And it's always been that way. And I will get zero pushback from her. Now, she'll call in to see how I'm doing. She'll call in to ask, when you're coming home. But she's never said, you're there too long. You should be home now. Why are you there? It's 4 a.m. She just knows that what I'm doing is what I need to be doing. And that it's my creative space and that
it's your process.
It's my process. And, she may not like it, but she completely respects it. And just that alone is worth marrying her. Because, there's so many people who there's people I know who are musicians and their wives are always like, why do you got to go hang out with them after the show? Why don't you just come straight home? And why are these girls looking at you on stage? And when you find someone who really, really gets it, what you're doing, it's awesome. Because then you become more productive, there's a lot of stuff that I've done that I kind of barriers that you break through as an artist to open up to the next level or whatever that you can't get to unless you have the freedom to try it or the freedom to, or at the very least, not have to come home and fight about it or justify it or whatever. And so that's the thing that for me, and I told her this, I said, when we first got married, I said, you're the one, I know it. We have the same values. We believe in the same things. We support each other. I know that we'll have a good family, and that's it. There's no, let's just do this. And, years later, that's exactly what's happened. We've totally grown together and in the same, through thick and thin and all that, we've stayed together. But people also ask me for example, I always mess around with Laura, but I tell her, if I ever got divorced, I would never get married again.
Oh, I say that all the time.
Oh, fuck that.
Fuck that. I'm not doing this shit again.
I realize that this is a 1 in a million relationship I'm in with her right now. It's great,
Yes. You're not going to find that again.
I'm not going to find that again. There's no way I'm going to find that again. So it's I don't want to get divorced. Right. But if I did, I would never get married again. Fuck that shit.
You can find me at the strip club.
It's just marriage is a super hard thing. Super hard.
It is. Well, it's super hard. In the best of circumstances, it's super hard.
Exactly.
And yeah, I've said that. I'm like, you know what? If this doesn't work, I'm done. I'm never doing this again. I barely did it this time.
Hey, you know what's funny? I just this weekend, I ran into some family that I hadn't seen in a long time. And this one guy in the family, he's been married several times. Right. And now he's way older than me. Yeah. And he's introduced me to his girlfriend. Right. And
is she younger?
Yeah, of course she is. Of course she's younger. Right. And I know his other wives. Right.
Right.
And it's
you're still friends with his exes.
Yeah. But his girlfriend now is basically version 5.5 one
Right.
of like his first wife.
Oh, interesting.
It's like it's always the same
shades, different shades of the same color.
It's the same girl every time. Like he hasn't learned a lesson.
Yeah.
He's
right.
got, I don't know how many kids and divorces he's had. Yeah. But he doesn't learn his lessons. He's on the same kind
Isn't that
of
fascinating,
chick.
man?
You know, and I just see her and I'm like, oh, I know you're his girlfriend. The height, the packaging, the package, it's all the same, dude. Like, wow. Like, you know, if you're going to go and get different,
Go different,
dude.
Yeah,
you know, go get someone that's taller. Go get another nationality.
Yeah.
Go get something else.
Right. Go gay. Do something.
Go do something different. You just keep doing the same thing, and it's not working every time. You know, and it's
you might want to look in the mirror, pal. Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you're happy right now. Well, let's see how long that lasts, you know. But it's funny how you can see it like in other people, but it's like you can't see it in yourself sometimes.
It is so interesting. I mean, and you know, the things that make it work are oftentimes, you know, the things that are unexpected and or people think it won't work for certain reasons, but then it does totally work. So for example, like, you know, my wife and I, when we met, I was living in Chicago and she was living in LA. And I came back to Chicago. I was in LA on business, and we had a mutual friend. We met up, and I was like, wow, okay, you know, white tiger. I might need to. I might need to hunt some big game here. White tigers are pretty rare. I go back home. I'm telling my buddies, like, oh my god, you know, I just met this, you know, amazing woman, whatever, and they're like, dude, fucking wake up. They're like, it's never going to work. You know, she's in LA, you're in Chicago. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And we dated long distance for 2.5 years. We've been together. We've been married 15 years. We've been together 18 years, basically. It worked because of the distance, because we were forced to talk on the phone. We were forced to communicate. We were forced to get to know each other, right, in a real fundamental way via phone conversations, email, what have you. And that laid a foundation, I think, that was meaningful and fundamental and essential to a lasting relationship. Because, I mean, if we were in the same town, I know what would have happened. It would have been hot and heavy for about 8 weeks, maybe 10. I would have gotten bored, or she would have gotten bored. Somebody would have gotten bored. I probably would have started feeling trapped.
Oh, hold on. Which town are you talking about? If you would have been in the same town, which town are you talking about?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, if any town.
No, I guess I'm referring to where you grew up, right?
Yeah.
In Indiana.
Yeah, I was born in Gary, Indiana. I was raised in Portage, Indiana. I was living in Chicago.
In Indiana, where you lived, you said that was also, it was very close to where the head of the KKK was or something like that? What was that story?
Well,
that's what.
Jesus, we're taking it. Yeah. So,
well,
I see where you're going.
You see where I'm going?
Yeah. All right. No. So, okay. So let's break that down for a minute. I want to make sure that, you know, our listeners are clear on what's up. So I was born in Gary, Indiana. I grew up in a town just east of there, about 15 minutes called Portage, Indiana, basically on the shore of Lake Michigan. Okay. Very segregated area. You know, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, Gary was considered kind of little Chicago. There was a lot of white people that lived there, a lot of money that was there. And then as blacks were moving to Chicago, moving to that area to look for jobs, because the steel mills are all along that lake shore there, a lot of industry there. They came to look for jobs. And of course, you know, racist white people, white flight, they took their money and ran and settled in other areas, right? So, you know, when I grew up, blacks were in Gary, whites were in Portage. To my family's credit, we, you know, got to Chicago a lot, you know, mixed in, you know, got culture, traveled. So for me, I always was curious and adventurous in terms of other cultures, other people, whatever. Like I just loved going to Chicago. I loved the exotic nature of different peoples, different cultures, the whole thing. My parents, my mom's from Indianapolis, my dad's from the South. And when I started going to college, Indiana University, but I had been going to Chicago and I had met some musicians who were good friends of a friend of mine. And when they heard that I was from Portage or from Indiana, they told me something that I never knew. My whole life, I didn't know that the headquarters of the KKK was in Rensselaer, Indiana. Now, I'm very proud of that because I think that says a lot about my family versus other people. And I was like, I literally didn't believe it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? No, like the headquarters of the KKK has got to be like in fucking Kentucky or something. You know what I mean? And they're like, no, dude, it's in Rensselaer, Indiana.
Which is how far away from where you grew up?
Hour and a half south, man, about something like that. And it blew me away. I was like, holy shit, you know? So anyway, so that's the story, right? About that. But in terms of Channing and I, like my dating sort of habits, the way things had been working, I just noticed that typically, you know, I'd meet somebody, you know, we would date, it'd be hot and heavy, and then I would get bored, you know, and I would move on. I wasn't looking for a marriage. I wasn't looking for, you know, to settle down. I was having fun. And I think that I was so attracted to my wife, to my girlfriend at the time, that if she had lived in Chicago or if I lived in LA, I think I would have just, you know, I would have burned hot and I would have burned out, and that would have been it. And so the distance for that 2.5 years forced us to communicate and get to know each other, you know, and I think in a really important way. And it was a year and a half after dating that I decided to move to LA. And again, giving credit where credit's due, she didn't pressure me. It didn't even come up. I think we both were very aware of the fact that somebody was going to have to move somewhere, but we didn't talk about it. There was no pressure. You know, it's funny, you mentioned something about you and Laura, talking about you sort of being very clear with her about, look, I'm focused, I'm moving on. I want you to come with me. If you don't want to come, that's cool, but this is what I'm doing. You know, please, you know, come along. You know, there was a moment in my relationship with my wife where I knew, because we had been dating pretty strong for, well, I guess we met in April of 99. So this had to be Christmas of 99, right? So it'd been like 8 months or something. And I knew I was falling in love. And basically we had gone to dinner. She'd come to Chicago and we were celebrating Christmas, whatever, took her to dinner. And I said to her, I said, look, we got to talk because I respect you too much. I respect myself too much not to let you know that I'm falling in love with you. And, you know, if you don't feel similarly, totally cool. But I don't want to waste my time or your time. And I don't want to get hurt. So if you're not feeling that way, that's cool. And you don't even have to answer now. But just I'm letting you know where I'm at, because if we're not going to move forward together, then we just need to go our separate ways, you know. I guess 18 years later, it worked out.
She still hasn't answered you, but she just...
Yeah, sure, that's right. That's right. God damn it, you're right. She never told me.
She never told you. Yeah, she's got it in her back pocket.
Oh, shit.
She's going to say one day, card. Remember you asked me that one time? Yeah. I finally have an answer for you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing, too, I think, is that, number one, you know, women are way smarter than men are. And then when it comes to relationships, obviously, like tenfold, you know? So I think a lot of the times when we as men think we're doing something because we chose to go that route, you know, like we just don't realize
that we're pawns in their chess game, man.
That we just, you know, we're on the little boat and the current went that way. And we're like, wow, we're just sailing. And not realizing that they set up the current. They made it go that way. And so, yes, so many times, like in you know, our 25 years now of, I can just look back at so many times where, you know, I think like, oh, that's pretty cool. Look what I did.
Well, listen, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, Channing did a similar thing with me on the family front, right? So I had moved to LA. I knew that because we'd been together 2.5 years, but we had never lived together in the same town. And so I was moving to LA. We were going to move in together. And I just knew that if we survived the first month, you know, I probably was going to marry her or propose, because if you can live together, you're good. And so eventually, of course, we got married, the whole thing. But I was still very uncertain about being a dad, very uncertain. And so there was a point where she said to me, look, you need to know that I want to be a mom. I want to be a parent. And it's been a lifelong dream of mine. I totally respect you if you don't want to, but I don't know that we have a future together if you don't want kids, because I want kids and I'm going to be a mom. And she said, I'm not going to bring it up again. Just telling you how it is. You can take whatever time you need to like figure it out. And I love you regardless, but I don't think we have a relationship. We don't share the same values, share the same goals or whatever. And then she literally dropped it. Didn't bring it up again really for months. And she threw the gauntlet down. I mean, basically, it was an ultimatum, but it wasn't an ultimatum. You know what I mean? It was done in a very emotionally intelligent, mature way. And for me, I just sort of looked at it like a personal challenge. Like, what was stopping me? What was blocking me? What was getting in my way that was an existential threat to the relationship that I loved and the woman I loved, right? And so, quite frankly, one of the personal accomplishments of my life that I take the most pride in was figuring that out for myself and getting to a place where I feel comfortable being a dad on my terms, not her terms, not because of, but to her credit, because women are so much smarter and because they're so much more strategic, she knew she had to give me my space.
Right, exactly. They control it all. They know what they're doing.
So I have a great story. So talking about being a parent, right? So one of the things that my wife and I have very different backgrounds in is around religion. I come from a pretty devout, Christian family, and Channing comes from, call it an observant Christian family, but, they were not as practicing, devout, fundamentalist, whatever. And so I've got issues around religion. She doesn't have those issues. And when we didn't have kids, it didn't matter. Yeah, because we both were happy to sleep in on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Or whatever, yeah. Right? But when we have kids, then it kind of becomes a thing, right? So, we're sorting it out. Everything's fine, whatever. We're converting to Mormonism. No, I'm just kidding.
Perfect.
Jehovah's Witness, really.
Yeah.
No. Scientology, of course.
Yeah.
Here in LA.
Yeah.
But, of course, religion's all around us. Right? I mean, my daughter goes to school with Christians, with Muslims, with Jews, with, God knows what, and probably Scientologists.
Yeah, probably.
Right? Yeah. And so inevitably these questions are going to come up. So my daughter, the other day, we were driving, and sadly we've had a couple of deaths in our circle of friends. 2 moms died, actually. A mom at her school and a mom, a dear friend of ours. Anyway, so we're driving, and my daughter says, Dada, what happens after you die? And I said, well, honey, I don't know. I said, I've never died. I don't know. And she's like, well, is there a heaven? I said, well, some people believe there is. And she said, well, what do you believe? I said, well, I don't know. And she says, well, is there a God? And I said, some people believe there is. And she said, what do you think? I said, I don't know. I said, but you want to hear something really cool? And she goes, what's that? I said, some people believe that God is a woman. Dude, the look on her face was like one of the greatest gifts as a dad, as a parent, because that look of pride and possibility and excitement that the most powerful, all-knowing, supreme being of life in the universe was female. And it was, one of my prouder moments being a dad.
No, well, it's funny you bring up religion because, one of the things that made it easy for us to get married was that we both had the same religious backgrounds, right? We both grew up in very Catholic environments. We both went to Catholic school I went from first grade until college. I went to Catholic school. She went from elementary to high school. So we had this Catholic background, an upbringing. And so that was So there's a lot of unspoken things that we both understood.
Right.
That made it very easy. And it's funny because if you ask me if I'm Catholic now, not so much. If you ask her, she'd say the same thing. But it's funny because we kind of taken what works in Catholicism, what works for us, and use that and applied that. And then what doesn't, we don't use it, which a lot of people call that not being Catholic. But, the reality is that as we've grown older and, just experienced religion, we both have found, the things that religion tries to sell that just doesn't jive, And we were recently, her and I were asked to speak at this Catholic teens retreat, right? Because we were an example of a couple who's been together for a long time and had kids in our faith and blah, blah. And they said, sure, we'll go speak, Well, the woman who would have normally run this retreat, who had been doing it for years, right? That woman got pregnant out of wedlock this year. And so she's no longer allowed to run that retreat. So basically the church kicked her out for having a kid without being married.
Yet she couldn't be on birth control either.
Right. But yet she's an excellent person with these kids. And everyone loves her. She's great at these retreats and getting to these kids and all that stuff. And now these kids don't get to experience her because of this.
But the kids do get to experience the male priests who are molesting them.
Yeah. And we found that out the day before we went to the retreat. Because we were like, oh, isn't so-and-so running the retreat? They're like, no, they're not letting her do it because she's pregnant. And because then she'll be a bad example for these kids. Because, of course, kids are going to be like, oh, if she's pregnant, why can't we get pregnant? Right? I'm sure that's what's going to happen.
Of course, because that's the natural thing that they would think.
So the next day, we're at this retreat, right? And we were there for about an hour and a half or something, right? It wasn't we were there the whole time. We're just there for a portion of it. And this part of the retreat happens when the kids have questions they want to ask their parents, but obviously their parents aren't there. So then literally this wall opens up and we're behind there. And then now we get to answer the questions that they have directed for their parents. And we get to answer them, we're on stage with 4 or 5 other couples and we all get to answer the way each of us would answer it. And there was so many times that they asked something where I just wanted to be well, first of all, this religion is bullshit. Just so you know.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because, I had to hold back a few times on certain things because I didn't want to make the religion wrong. But I said it in different ways, right? And we said it in different, for example, some of the kids wanted to know, what if my parents found out I was gay? What would happen? And so I told them, well, when I found out that my daughter was gay, it was oh, that's cool. Because it was like her cutting her hair. Oh, that looks nice. Cool. Right on.
Right.
And I said, now I understand other parents might be I'll never speak to you again. And I said, but my reality was different, right? So we gave them takes on our relationship and what we thought, whatever, which was way different than the way a lot of these people on stage were answering, right? And we didn't get into any specific things that the Catholic religion is doing wrong. But we were very outspoken about letting kids know that, it's okay to be themselves and do this and do that, right? So what was funny was the next day, my nephew comes up to me and he goes, you guys are the talk of the town right now. And I'm like, what? It's oh yeah. You and Laura are the shit right now. Everyone is talking about you. All my friends, everyone that was at the retreat, oh my God, you guys just blew them away with your answers. And we're like, what?
Yeah, because you were honest and frank and candid.
And so I was like, oh, if they only knew what I really wanted to say.
Yeah, right.
But, it's been a crazy thing because, we have raised our kids, not religious. Of course, I wouldn't say we raised them religious because they didn't go to Catholic school when they were kids, but we tried to put them in Catholic school when they were in high school. And our boys loved it and our daughter hated it. So she ended up leaving. She went 1 year to Catholic school and then went to another school after a public school, and she loved it. And even though our boys loved Catholic school, they loved everything about it, they didn't leave there being more religious, Actually, Max, and I don't know if he still feels like this way, but he told me he wanted to be Buddhist at one point. And I was like, cool, awesome, I guess the takeaway for me is just that, there's certain things that you can learn from any religion. And those are the things that I want to take away from my Catholic upbringing, like more spiritual things. Like, I don't really care about what the Bible said on page 20, like I don't care about that shit. It's more about like, that you're a good person, that you're loving, that you're accepting, that you're, have empathy, all that kind of stuff. That to me, that's way more important than any of these specific things. Yeah. So it's funny because now, in our family, we're not the role models for you Catholic.
Are now
for Catholic.
You're the talk of the town.
So it's funny how things happen, huh?
That is amazing. Yeah, when people ask me what I am, I say born again pagan. That's what I am. Born again pagan. I literally used to have a button in high school that said born again pagan. Fantastic.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Well, my friend, This has been a pleasure.
Hallelujah.
Amen, brother. In Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Oh, man.
Great seeing you, partner.
You too, bro.
See you.
Peace.
Ciao. Peace out. Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to like this episode and share it with your friends on social. And if you haven't already done so, please be sure to press subscribe and follow us on IG at Not Real Artificial. We appreciate the support. Sourdough out.